Today we're going to draw an apple using value and shading to create realism and dimension. So first you have to position your apple at least arm's distance away from you. Make sure that it is in a position that you feel comfortable drawing. Next, make sure that you do not move the apple, because once you move it, it's going to change your view, therefore making your drawing not accurate. Identify your light source, where it's coming from. A helpful tip to do this is to squint your eyes slightly. By squinting your eyes slightly, the shadows should be able to emerge, therefore helping you to figure out your dark areas versus your light areas and where your light source is coming from. Remember, whatever direction your light source is coming from and shining directly on your object will be lighter, and whatever is opposite your light source will be darker or cast in shadow. Start by drawing a contour outline of the object that you are drawing. Remember that apples are not perfectly round, so I should not be seeing any perfect circles. So once you have the contour outline, identify where the core is. Remember, the core of your apple is in the center of the apple, so I should not see a core being drawn all the way up here. I should see it, a little bit down. And draw your line just to indicate where that core is. Stay away from drawing too small of a line, because then it will close that center, not giving you enough space to shade. Once you have that core drawn, if your apple has a stem, you can draw it in at this time as well. Notice where the stem begins and ends. If it does not stick up past your apple from your view, then it should not be drawn that way. Okay. So there I have the contour outline of my apple. Once this is done, I could begin shading. Remember that when I shade, I want to work with the natural roundness of the object. And I want to make sure that I'm creating an effect to show that the core sinks in and the rest of the apple comes up and over. So, as you've heard me say before in some of my other lessons, you want to almost create an effect like a fountain coming up and out from the center. When shading, work lightly. Avoid any harsh lines, because these will show up in your artwork. This is not a pumpkin, it's an apple, so I should not see those harsh lines. Instead, you want to work slowly and smoothly to layer and blend. So notice how I'm rounding out my object. As you start to transition from the left side of your object to the right side, you're going to notice that the shading should come straight back and then slowly rock and transition over to the right. Maintaining that curve, maintaining that kind of sprouting sprinkler effect. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead to one that I've already started to work on a little bit more. This one's a little bit sketchier than I would like. I'd like it to be smoother, but this is what happens when you work too quickly. When you work fast, you get all of these lines. We want to stay away from that when shading, and instead we want to try to work to smooth out our shading. Instead of working with the tip of the pencil, make sure your pencil is slightly angled. And the same rule applies as you start to work towards the center of your object. You can straighten out that line, and the curve becomes more gradual. Notice how I'm going over, and then it'll round on this side. So once you have a nice base layer of value on your apple, you're going to go in and you're going to start to add another layer so that you have some shadows. So right now my light source is coming from this angle here, so I'm going to darken the left side of my apple. I also have a light source coming from here. Sometimes there's more than one light source, so underneath would be darker as well. So here I could apply a little bit of pressure and go ahead and add more value. Remember, do not under any circumstance blend or smudge with your fingers. It just makes your apple look dirty. We want to try to avoid that. Instead, you want to gradually build material and blend using your pencil. Now, as I get in here into the core, it's going to darken as well, because since it sinks in, light cannot enter. Now, once again, in these demonstrations, I do work a little faster than I'd like to, so my disclaimer is that it may not be as perfect as I prefer, but make sure you take your time, look at the apple that's in front of you, because it really makes all the difference. Of course, I have my stem. The stem has value as well, because remember, this part is going to be lighter. Where the light is hitting it. So just keep in mind that as you add value, as you smooth out your apple, just always, always maintain shading in the same direction. You don't want a flat object. All right, so there's the beginning. I'm going to stop there. Make sure that as you continue to practice drawing, you work today on creating a smooth surface for your object. Good luck.